What is up, guys? It is Coasters and Things here today, and it is time for a countdown that I've been looking forward to present to you all. This is my top 15 favorite wooden roller coasters that I have ridden. I have ridden over 60 different wooden coasters across America, and now it is time to take a look at my favorites. Now, I haven't ridden every single notable woody out there. There's still a few that I am missing, but I am hoping to ride those in the future, and then maybe in a couple years from now make this list again. Now, the first time I actually made this list was going on 4 years ago, and back then I had ridden less than half of the woodies that I have ridden now. Before I get into the list real quick, I just want to give quick honorable mentions to my number 20 through number 16 woodies that just barely missed the cut. From 20 to 16, these include Kentucky Rumbler at Beach Bend, Boardwalk Bullet at Kemah Boardwalk, Zeus at Mount Olympus, Cyclops at Mount Olympus, and Boss at Six Flags St. Louis. These 5 are all good wooden coasters that just barely missed the cut for this list. Also, previously, Lightning Rod at Dollywood was my favorite wooden coaster. Now though, over half of it has been converted into a steel coaster, so it's not a true wooden coaster anymore. Without further ado, let's get into it. I'm gonna start off with a bit of a controversial opinion. Number 15 is Hades 360 at Mount Olympus. Now, some enthusiasts have this as one of their favorite woodies, and some don't have it anywhere near their favorite. As for me, this was a tough call. I had a really hard time debating between the Boss and Hades 360, but I ultimately gave it to Hades because of its layout. This ride has one of the most incredible layouts on any wooden coaster. It has such a long tunnel that goes under the parking lot. Now, the reason why this coaster is so low on this list is because this is seriously one of the roughest coasters ever. I had a headache after just 2 rides, and decided to tap out after that. The roughness of this ride is just absurd. Even with the Timberliner train, that doesn't help this ride's roughness. If Mount Olympus could give this a full retrack and it became smooth, this ride would be much higher on this list. This is easily the roughest out of all 15 of the coasters on this list. It has so much potential with such an awesome layout, it's just so rough that it's very hard to re-ride it. Number 14 is White Lightning at Fun Spot America Orlando. This is the star attraction of this park. It really put Fun Spot on the map when it opened in 2013. This is a GCI hybrid woody, and a couple years ago it got the very first bit of GCI's new Titan track put on it. Now, it is a very small section, so you don't really notice it. It was just something GCI was trying out. This coaster has a lot of airtime on the way out there and a lot of airtime on the way back. It is also very smooth, which is a huge plus, especially for it being almost 10 years old. This coaster has proven such a success that a couple of other parks in Europe have built GCIs very similar to this. This is an example of how you shouldn't judge a coaster just by its size. This is definitely the smallest of all the woodies on this list, but don't let that fool you. This ride packs quite a punch. Number 13 is a rather odd one. It is Rampage at Alabama Adventure. Out of all the coasters on this list, this is the one that I bet the least amount of people watching this video have ridden. This ride really is kind of an obscure park. I have only been here once. It was in 2018, and I was impressed by this coaster. This is a CCI creation, and it actually sat dormant for about 4 years after the amusement side of the park was abandoned in 2011 in favor of just the water park. Well, luckily the Cook family bought the park, reopened the amusement park, and was able to restore and reopen this coaster in 2015. Its layout is built into the hillside, so it makes use of its surrounding terrain. It's not the smoothest, it can be a little rough, but it's really not a big deal at all in my opinion. I'm glad the fine folks formerly at Holiday World were able to save this coaster. Number 12 is American Thunder at Six Flags St. Louis. This is a GCI that when you look at it off-ride, you're like, it looks okay, but then you ride it and you're like, that's really good. It is really smooth and has several good pops of airtime. This ride originally opened in 2008 as Evel Knievel, but then was later rethemed and renamed to American Thunder, which I think is a much better name. This ride is actually a clone of Thunderbird at Powerland in Finland. Of the 3 wooden coasters at Six Flags St. Louis, this is my favorite of the 3. It isn't as tall or as fast as some of the other GCIs, but it has a very strong layout with good airtime. I think this coaster is underrated. I hope Six Flags maintenance is able to keep this coaster running good. When I went in March 2021, this coaster was way better than I thought it was going to be. Just barely missing the top 10 in the number 11 spot is Lightning Racer at Hersheypark. This is technically 2 roller coasters. It is a dueling coaster. You have the 2 sides, Thunder and Lightning. Both sides have very similar layouts that interact with each other. Hersheypark is also very good at dispatching the 2 sides at the same time every time. Now, if you've ridden this coaster before, then you know that the Thunder side wins most of the time. With the space that the park had to work with when they were building this coaster, the Thunder side wins by default more. That being said, this is still a great coaster. It's not super intense, but it is pretty smooth and very re-rideable. Also, this is the only coaster on this list that I have ever actually operated. Therefore, this coaster holds a special place in my heart. Making the top 10 is a legendary wooden coaster. It is the Beast at Kings Island. This is one of the most famous roller coasters out there. This is so many people's favorite wooden coaster, and I understand why. It has so much character to it. It just goes so far back out into the woods. The helix at the end is just insane. Up until this ride was built, we had pretty much only seen smaller wooden coasters at theme parks. Kings Island took a huge gamble when they built this coaster, and it paid off big time. This ride is still the longest wooden coaster in the world, over 40 years after it opened. Now, I have only ever experienced this ride at night. I have not had a day ride on Beast yet, but that is something I'm hoping to experience in the future. Number 9 is my home park's wooden coaster, Thunderhead at Dollywood. This GCI is really awesome. This was also my first big roller coaster that I ever rode, back when I was 9 years old. I really like the layout of this coaster. It has 22 turns and 32 crossovers. It also has phenomenal pacing. It never lets up the moment it leaves the lift hill. Also, Dollywood has been doing a lot of retracking on this coaster over the past few years, and it is running better than ever. This ride seriously gets better with age, I feel. This is my most ridden wooden coaster, and my second most ridden coaster overall. Every time I ride Thunderhead, I am always so happy that my home park has this fantastic GCI. Taking the number 8 spot is Goliath at Six Flags Great America. This is the first RMC Woody to make this list. This ride once again holds the title for world's fastest wooden coaster. As much as it pains me to say that, I have a great appreciation for this ride. It has one of the best first drops on a wooden coaster. Straight down 18 stories at 85 degrees. That is also the steepest first drop on a wooden coaster. It is very smooth and very fast. Goliath keeps its pace the whole way through the ride. It also has 2 fantastic inversions, including the first ever 0G stall. It is definitely short, but it is very powerful. Number 7 is Texas Stingray at SeaWorld San Antonio. As of 2022, this is the latest wooden coaster to open in America. It is a GCI and arguably one of their best. This ride opened in 2020, less than 2 weeks before the pandemic hit, and I was so fortunate to be one of the very first enthusiasts to ride it. I rode this coaster on just its 3rd public day ever. This coaster has a straight drop, which is a stark contrast from GCI's usual curved drops, and I actually like it better that way. I love the layout. It's constantly going from left to right, and it has great pacing. I also love how smooth this coaster is. GCI's newer woodies are very smooth, and this one is no exception. This instantly became one of my favorite woodies the first time I rode it. Number 6 is Phoenix at Knoebels. This ride is another example that proves size is not everything when it comes to a coaster. This ride is not that big, but it is so incredibly powerful. It has only buzz bars for its restraints, not even seat belts. As a result, you float up out of your seat a lot. And it's not just your butt that rises up off the seat, your feet rise up off the floor too. Your whole body is catapulted into the air on this ride for several seconds, and that's what makes this ride amazing. In terms of airtime on wooden coasters, Phoenix is probably top 3 for airtime. Also, this coaster has lightning fast dispatches, between 30 to 45 seconds every single time. Knoebels takes such great care of Phoenix, and it shows. This is by far the oldest out of all the wooden coasters on this list. It's 75 years old this year, and it still kicks butt. It's hard to believe Phoenix was relocated from a defunct park in San Antonio. It has also won 3 Golden Ticket Awards for Best Wooden Coaster. We're at the top 5. Coming in at the number 5 spot is Boulder Dash at Lake Compounce. This has the best setting ever for a wooden coaster. It is almost entirely hidden in the forest, and it runs alongside the mountain. There's several moments where you're right up against the terrain, and other moments where you're high off it. It amazes me the pacing that this coaster has. It just flies through its whole layout without ever losing speed. I really had to debate between this and Phoenix, but I chose Boulder Dash for its unique setting and incredible pacing. It may not be as smooth or have as much airtime as Phoenix does, but this ride really is a one-of-a-kind experience that should be on everyone's bucket list. Number 4 is Mystic Timbers at Kings Island. This is my favorite GCI and one of the smoothest wooden coasters I've ever ridden. I first rode it in 2019, and I thought it was so smooth. I then went back last year in 2021 and rode it again, and it was still as smooth as ever. You go really far back out into the woods of Kings Island. Ejector airtime all the way through. It also crosses over the River Rapids ride. At the end is of course the shed. The shed was definitely overhyped by the park, but it is better than nothing at the end. Kings Island takes magnificent care of this coaster. I always look forward to riding Mystic Timbers. We're now entering my top 3 wooden coasters. All 3 of these woodies are elite. These 3 should be on everyone's bucket list. Number 3 is Outlaw Run at Silver Dollar City. This was the first ever RMC wooden coaster, as well as the first wooden coaster to go upside down multiple times. This coaster utilizes its terrain very well. Its drop is much bigger than its height. I love the elements that this coaster has. That first overbanked inversion is so weird, but it's great. Love the wave turn, and you can't forget the double barrel roll at the end. That's a killer finale. Also, Outlaw Run has an incredible night ride. RMC hit a home run with their first woody. So now we're at the top 2, and you guys know what they are. A lot of enthusiasts have these as their top 2 wooden coasters, and I definitely agree with those that do. Both of these rides are in my top 10 roller coasters, period. These 2 really do separate themselves from all the other wooden coasters I have ridden. I had a really hard time deciding between these 2, but I finally have my decision. Coming in at number 2 is the Voyage at Holiday World. This ride is just unfathomable. How is there a wooden coaster this long with this much airtime and have only 1 lift hill? I just don't understand how that was achieved. I still don't know what Holiday World and Gravity Group were thinking when they came up with this ride. They took on one of the most ambitious projects ever, and it paid off big time. This ride just feels like it never wants to end when you ride it. It just keeps on going. And if you can ride it trimless at night during Hollywood nights, that is the best night ride ever on a roller coaster. The Voyage feels like it shouldn't exist. Us coaster enthusiasts are so lucky that this ride exists. This is so many enthusiasts' favorite roller coaster, and I can totally understand why. Finally, coming in at the number 1 spot is the one, the only, El Toro at Six Flags Great Adventure. This was my top bucket list roller coaster for over 3 years. Where do I even start with this ride? First off, it has a cable lift hill, one of only 5 wooden coasters in the world to feature a cable lift. And it's a fast cable too. You reach the top in just 15 seconds. And this ride is a monster. It is 181 feet tall. It also has one of the best first drops ever. If you're in the back, you just get yanked over and it's awesome. You then proceed to experience some of the strongest airtime on a roller coaster, period. A couple of moments in particular hurt your thighs, it throws you up so hard. The rolling Thunderhill, in particular, tries to rocket you out of the train. You also go through several bank turns before you glide into the brakes. It is quite smooth for a wooden coaster. There are a couple of rough moments, but overall it is substantially smoother than your average wooden coaster. I had a really hard time between El Toro and Voyage, but I gave it to El Toro because I feel the airtime is just unmatched on any roller coaster. That is why El Toro is currently my favorite wooden roller coaster. All 15 of these woodies are great, and they all deserve recognition. Now obviously there's still several notable woodies out there that I have not ridden yet. Just to throw a few out there that I haven't ridden yet: Ghost Rider at Knott's Berry Farm, Shivering Timbers at Michigan's Adventure, Gold Striker at California's Great America, Renegade at Valley Fair, Prowler at Worlds of Fun, Ravine Flyer 2 at Waldemere, etc. I really hope to experience all of those coasters in the future and let you guys know my opinions on them too. As I ride more wooden coasters in the future, this list will change. This is just how it is as of 2022. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what your favorite wooden coasters are. I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say. This is Coasters and Things, signing out.